Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today we're going to be talking about quite a few things regarding Bitcoin's price, but we are going to start with the daily. And I probably should tell you the date as I usually do. Today is December 27th, 2024. And let's just jump right into it for Bitcoin here. Bitcoin's playing back down to its low side structure. Again, there is an area of support here that was prior resistance right around this area that has held up as support thus far. Now, testing it again and again and again, well, if it begins to fail, then I would be looking for another little bit of a leg down, at least to test some of the low side structure over here at the upper $80,000 region at 88,700 to that $90,000 or so on the close open there. Now, that's not a foregone conclusion. Bitcoin has been front running this $92,000 area. I think it did dip down to 92,115 thus far on this bigger move down. And kind of following up with where we left off on Monday, as there was no Wednesday video, unfortunately. It was Christmas Day, and I did not get a chance to actually record one, although I did want to. There was some pretty interesting happenings on Wednesday, as we did see Tuesday into Wednesday, Bitcoin did set a local low on a close and a swing. And, it's testing again into that area. Nothing too crazy, nothing too out of the ordinary. It did reject right around the area that I had spoken about by the basis band here. And it did fail to close above this lower high swing over here at 99,600 or so. Now, it did swing that area and then come back down. It does look like it's kind of wedging itself into a range in lower term timeframes. And that might be something that we should take a look at here today before getting into some of the higher term timeframe stuff to pay attention to. But again, we have this zone of support here right by the lower second standard deviation. We've gotten a little bit of a front run of this $92,000 or slightly below $92,000 here at 91,934 on the close open right here. And if we do see, the lows dropped, this is the area that I'm going to be looking, 92 to that 88,700. Of course, any closes below $92,000 and the lower second standard deviation would be expansion on the daily into support. And then, of course, the bulls need to hold up here at this 88,700. Can it be swung below? Absolutely. Does it really matter where a wick lands? Not really. There would be some significance, of course, if we saw a giant wick down through 85 or something like that. But as long as it's closing above 88,700, not too much to be worried about for the bulls. If it does lose that area, we just have a consolidation structure and one bear candle that I'm going to call an order block candle. And that is going to be a little bit different than the way that some people do order block candles. But this was a big expansion up. This was the first bear candle after the expansion to new highs. So the bottom side of this candle would be the area to pay attention to. And anything in between 88,700 and $85,000, basically mid to upper $80,000 is fair game on any moves below, even in lower term timeframes of that 88,700 level, which also happens to be a significant level of interest at the 1.168, not 618, 1.168 or 16.8% above the prior all-time high. This is a bear market fib pull from the prior cycle bear market, so $69,000 to 15.5 at the low. And you can see that we had a little bit of a deviation of the topside fib here above price action at the 1272 at 103,645. Of course, we did hit our target above there. We were looking about 106 to 108. We hit 106 or just shy of it there at 105, and then went up and hit that 106 to 108 target before pulling back. And, there's not too much for the bulls to be concerned about here. There's actually some opportunity that might start to present itself as long as they can hold this low side structure. If they start to lose it, bears are going to take control and start bringing things down a bit. And it's really all about expansion. into this support and possibly through the support area. Because if we did get expansion down into support, if it begins to lose it, then we're looking for continuation of that expansion and, a bigger move down, obviously. In an expansive manner on the daily, well, that wouldn't be very good for bulls. Bears will definitely be celebrating. So in this case, it's the same kind of stuff to the top side. Now we do need to take out this swing here. We're just going to call it $100,000 to go up and test, 101 to 101 200 by this area of resistance over here. You can call the $99,000 level as a call out area, but it's really $100,000. We have an equal area of resistance on these two highs. This high coming in from Friday, November 22nd, and then of course this most recent swing high at that same area, nearly on the dot there. So, it's really just take out this high above $100,000. We're looking to roughly 101. Above there, need to see bulls, of course, upon regaining this high, would also regain the basis band, which is the 20 simple moving average here on the daily. We would be looking to the upper first, right? This resistance over here to that upper first as a volatility level of interest at 102,500. And then, of course, above there, right back to essentially $104,000, right around this fib number at 103,645. And the swing high from the 5th of December there at 104. Anywhere above there, I'm looking right back to the close open highs here at 106 to 106 100 or so. Above there, we're looking to run the all-time high 108 to 110, 110 to 112, and then 112 to 115. We've taken a look at some of those fibs before, and I do think that might be relevant to look at if we do start to see this head up coming into the new year next week. Of course, Wednesday is going to be the first. So Tuesday we will have our last day of the month, something to pay attention to, of course. And I will be talking to you again on Monday regarding a lot of what I'm looking for in the longer term timeframes. Now, for the daily here, we have, another drive of regular bearish divergence playing out, coming off of that hidden bull div. We're still in hidden bull div area. So if we do see any closes back above the Friday high of 97,340, we'll likely see another hidden bullish divergence populate off of the low side structures over here. So that would be something to look for. At minimum, likely a run back to test somewhere around the basis band and this higher high swing. If we did see that, maybe that's building up to possibly going and testing this green zone, $100,000 and above. But it's not. I'm not that confident in weekends. Still, we'll see how things go. Maybe there's a little bit more of an appetite. Now, sticking into the range and moving into the bearish control zone here, there is something to note about this. Typically, if this does start to get into the oversold zone for a regular stoke like this for momentum indicators, obviously if it's continuing to head down and Bitcoin's going sideways and holding this red zone between that 92 and 88,700 or so, then, generally we'd be looking for maybe a bullish reset or a bullish turn in momentum here. But if it does start to get into the oversold zone, and this is equally as important when understanding overbought zones for a regular stoke, that's typically where we see the biggest moves occur, is in the oversold and overbought areas of a regular stoke momentum indicator. Now, obviously, that would have to coincide with Bitcoin, getting expansion into support here and then possibly losing it. That's might be something to look for. But if it does continue to tick down and start to turn around while it's above this support, we might be looking for Bitcoin either already heading back to the upside or getting ready to test further up within this overall structure. That's something to note, when we see the Sunday CME open. but something to at least be aware of in this Saturday candle moving into the Sunday candle. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 12-hour. As it relates to the daily. So yeah, 12-hour got its cross down. 96,841 is going to be the momentum pivot there. We've got a continuation drive of bearish divergence, otherwise known as a hidden bear div, locally here for the 12-hour on RSI. All the same levels of interest. And if you look here, we had the expansion up. We maintained that high volatility environment and even got expansion back to the downside on the closes below the lower second standard deviation. So we moved from one side of the bands to the opposite side here. And in this expansion, we retested, came back and rejected the basis band area. And now it's sitting right on the lower first into a compression. So, I don't, even if Bitcoin was to swing down towards the lower second, kind of over a weekend, only if it closes below the lower second would I be looking for the 12-hour to kick off expansion. Of course, that would kick off expansion to the downside in the daily as well. So that is something to be aware of. If we do start to see like this next 12-hour candle get below there, that would be a front run of the daily. And then we know that it's very highly likely that we'll get a expansion of volatility on the daily to the downside as well. Thus, we're either already testing this area right below here. We would be already testing this area between 88,700 and 92. But if we were to see any kind of continuation, that's likely where we'd start to look towards the Sunday candle, CMB open into Monday, and see how things play out. In this regard, when we move from expansion into compression, typically, as we're getting the compression, testing to the, lower second, and then of course you see where the upper second is right at the edge of the green zone up here, right around that 101 area. These typically will either act as support initially upon being tagged, or we see it close through and then we get that expansion. Same for the upside here. Typically first pass, especially looking at lower term timeframes, likely a rejection when it's coming into a compression like this. But if we do see it close above, then we're looking for re-expansion. Sometimes, we still have to honor the overhead resistance and the downside supports here. So, we could even get expansion into a range or a sideways volatile look as well. So that's something that I'm going to be watching for. This is not as concerning as I believe many think it is until we see that downside cross there, until we see kind of the lower second break. That's where that does get concerning for the bulls in terms of momentum here. Same deal for, the RSI read here. I would like to see regular bullish divergence start to really play out within this structure, but it's not available right now. We're in higher low closing structure at the moment, maybe a little bit of a lower low as it relates to this guy, but this didn't really paint as a low until way over here, which is kind of ridiculous. So for this indicator, but maybe this would be the low to watch. Otherwise, there still is, this doesn't have a long enough look back, but there still is the hidden bullish divergences populating as long as it's trading in this area above that $88,700 to $92,000 or so. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4-hour. 4-hour might give us a little bit of a clue. So 4-hour momentum's bottoming out. There is a few drives of bullish divergence. I'd say that these ones already played out. We might get some more here, depending on, this one did not play. So it's a little, it's squeezing itself into a range as it goes into that compression on the 12-hour. This is also a range look on the 4-hour. If we start to see this most recent low dropped at 93,234, that would put Bitcoin's price below the lower second standard deviation, looking for expansion down into the support here, 92,000 to 88,700. To the top side here, if we can take out, the midline here, you can see that, this last high side structure at 97,340, kind of right around this accumulation structure here. We did see a low side structure put in there, a little bit of a rejection in that area, another rejection in and around that area, this area being held up as support before failing. So key pivot point is going to be, right there in the low 99 or $97,000 region, to the upper first here. And then of course we have to see, that $100,000 break basically to get to that upper second and expand into the overhead resistance, which is just above $100,000 at $100,097. Now, one of the things is if we don't see a structural change at minimum on a swing structure for this downtrend turning into a trend break and then possibly higher low structure on the 4-hour, beware of momentum indicators that are turning up and giving you false hope, right? You want to use trend, support and resistance, volatility, and momentum as confluences with each other. Where are they finding confluence? So if this were to turn up 94,146 or 150, we get this turned back to the upside, but we see no price appreciation and structure change. Be aware that if it fails and puts in another lower high, we'll see it turn right back down, right? And that would, start to look like Bitcoin coming back and just testing in this low side area. So something to be aware of there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly. We can see that Bitcoin is holding on to this this upper first standard deviation, as we had mentioned before. And this is where I do want to see the bulls hold up. 92.5 is the upper first standard deviation. I want to see weekly closes coming in above there. If not, if we start to see closes below, the next big thing to look for in the weekly is the upper first expanding past wherever the close open is. So if it opens below, it still, that would be the area to regain wherever the upper first is. If it does open below, get a close open and the upper first passes it. Otherwise, if it does close below, we do have to be very aware of where the basis band is coming in. Currently at $75,000, almost $76,000. Again, if Bitcoin loses, 85, I'm looking, mid to low 80s and then mid to upper 70s, right around $75,000, possibly a retest of the structure over here, 72, 73 to 75. We can always refine targets to the downside if that were to occur. To the upside, we're kind of in this volatility range between the upper first and upper second at the moment. Upper second's currently coming in at 109,200. If Bitcoin does turn this candle green before Sunday's close, we'll likely see this at 110. And of course, that's where we're getting our high at 108 to 110, then 110 to 112, which is a fib number from the local pull over here that I'm not showing right now. And then 112 to 115, which is another extension off of different fibs. Don't worry about it. We're looking at the macro. And the macro is saying that essentially lose that daily structure. It's already looking like it wants to try to paint at minimum. The swing high is already painted, but Bitcoin is hunting for a high. And again, we have our higher low swing, lower low close over here, right? And then we get the real trend break, which is our higher high to higher low swing and close. And then we have a higher high. So what are we looking for naturally from here is another higher low. So I'm not concerned about structure, but what I will tell you is that Bitcoin is, it has the possibility to, put in a deeper pullback than just locally where it's been accumulating. So understand that. And if it does break down into a deeper pullback, we're looking for higher low structure to develop rather, and that takes time, right? And unless it just V's its way out, which is, not the most likely scenario, to be quite honest. But in this case, we have a downward sloped we have a downward sloped Stoke here. 105,656 is the current pivot. That number closes anywhere here or lower is going to also get lower. I can't even give an estimate, but probably 103 to 104, maybe lower. Depending on how aggressive this number gets on the closes here. I would say probably 103 to 104. We don't have any current in-trend bearish divergence here. And I did get some messages like, no, there's bearish divergence from this structure. Yeah, this was a downtrending structure. This is currently a three-part uptrending structure. We're looking for that next higher low. We don't have any in-trend bearish divergence. We do have bearish divergence, which is hidden bearish divergence, though, that has been, it's not populating here because we don't see a high painted here, but there is bearish divergence here. And that would be hidden bearish divergence. If you're to go high enough time frame, this bearish divergence is regular bearish divergence. In this case, it's hidden. Yeah, so that is something to pay attention to. Of course, then we've got the monthly here. Let's go ahead and get rid of my local structure here that I've been talking about. And let's talk about this for a moment. This is actually a little concerning for the bulls here. And I'm going to explain why real quick here. When Bitcoin went into its compression, so we had our big expansion. We got our big mean reversion here, and then we started to see Bitcoin go into the bear market, and it got its first ever expansion to the downside in terms of volatility metrics. When it came back up and started to go sideways, breaking the swing downtrend structure, and then breaking into an uptrending structure, or the second part. So we have our higher low closes here, and our two swings are equal low swings. It then get broken for higher highs, higher low, higher high, right? So we have full trend, and we had an expansion already on the monthly, where we saw Bitcoin trending and closing above the upper second and even the upper third standard deviation. Then we get our big higher low structure, kind of hanging around the upper first, and then we get the bands expanding past. And typically when you see the bands expand past, we find the upper second, upper third zone as resistance, right? We're starting to see a little bit of re-expansion to the upside, but in order to maintain that, Bitcoin has to close above 95,500 on the monthly. And I'll talk about this again on Monday in prep for, the last day being Tuesday into Wednesday's New Year. And January 1st candle. But I want to give you a pretty clear example. And that would be just last cycle. We saw the big expansion up, right? We saw that we were moving from expansion into compression back here. We never got the expansion here. This was the warning sign back in June of 2019, right? And we continued with the compression. We kind of bounced around within the compression. Got our nice higher low structure to higher high breakout here, and all-time high breakout and run. So the actual bull run on expansion above the upper second and upper third. We come back down, we deviate the upper first standard deviation, and then come back up and find the upper second as resistance, and then move back down. Because we've already seen an expansion and a move back to that overhead volatility resistance, I'm going to tell you, bulls, you have to be cautious. Does that mean that a bear market is imminent? No, but it's very highly likely that if this begins to continue to expand past price, which it will at this point, the only way that it won't is if Bitcoin comes back down to the basis, which thankfully for the bulls is above the last higher low on the monthly at $49,000, right? But that would beget, something different happening here with structure possibly, and definitely with volatility, right? So we do need to be aware of that. And even if it sticks above the upper first here, which is coming in at 74,450, so right around $75,000, right around this high, is slightly above. Even if it were to come back down and retest this, got to be aware that on any legs back up, that upper second, upper third is going to continue to expand past price, right? And it will act as a kind of governing area for resistances overhead. And what we need to see is continued closures above the upper second to increase volatility over its moving average. In this case, it's at that 95,500. And we want to see expansion above the upper third in this case, which is currently coming in at 116,550. When Bitcoin was trading at the highs, this was almost 120. If Bitcoin were to push this, it's probably looking at like 123, 125. Likely to update to, 120 to 123 or so in its next close open if Bitcoin closes anything like this. And that would be another area of interest to pay attention to, because that would line up. Oops, wrong thing. I was demoing some trading stuff for people. What was I looking for? Fib. Nope, that's Fib. Here it is. Sorry. That's also not what I was looking for, which is funny because we were making I was making a little bit of a joke out of certain things, and now it's come back to bite me a little bit here. Let's go ahead and get some of my levels on the board here. 272.414. Yeah, it's fine. And what do we want to do? What do we want to do? We want to get the 0 on there. Is it? Yep, it is. And let's go ahead and make sure that this is set to log scale. All right. Okay. Main reason I bring this up is because you see the upper third is going to be moving into the 1414 around 128,000. I still would give it room around 128 to 130, but the next close open, this is going to pretty aggressively update, judging by the angle of our basis band here. And, you know, bulls just do need to exercise caution. That's all. And 93,929 is the momentum pivot for the monthly. And we want to see Bitcoin closing above that. So basically $94,000 is one point that we want to see Bitcoin closing above. And then, of course, 95,500 for that upper second standard deviation to continue the expansion of our Bollinger Bands here and expansion of volatility. And just as a reference, I want to point out where that is on our BBWP in charted format, and you can see that it's not even close to the moving average now. So yeah, bulls need to exercise caution. They want to see blast off through these areas. Otherwise, this is going to result in a high being put in at some point, in my personal opinion. So now that doesn't mean that it can't swing higher and hit those areas, but this is starting to look like, a setup for a top, not the top, a top, and then probably going in for another higher low structure at some point, and then we have to watch things very, very carefully from there on out. And yeah, I mean, it sounds bearish. It's not. It's just, kind of keeping track of where structure is. This is still a bull market. This is still a bull run. And bulls want this just to be a hiccup if it closes anything like this and then move right on past it. If not, then it will present problems for those who are incredibly long and unwilling to change their viewpoints. All right, that is going to do it for today. I will be back at you again here on Monday, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. I'm going to expand on some of my thoughts regarding Dixie. I was going to do it today, but this is running too long right now. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Dixie, a little bit about what to look for in the monthly, quarterly, 2-month, quarterly, 6-month, and yearly, what we want to be looking at. And then, obviously follow up with where price action currently is and kind of breaking down what's going on. And I think that would be a good setup for moving into the new year. And I hope that you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. Have a great weekend. And I'll catch you again on Monday. Take care.